There are moments in life when a single thought hits you so hard that it rearranges everything you believe about success. A moment when you look at your life, your work, your dreams, your struggles, and quietly ask yourself, is this all there is? But deeper than that question, something else whispers, something unsettling, something bold. A suspicion that maybe, just maybe, you've been using only a tiny fraction of the power that's available to you. And what if the real engine of wealth, success, confidence, and achievement has never been outside, but inside your own mind all along? This idea sounds almost unreal, even a bit frightening, because if it's true, then everything you've been waiting for, the opportunity, the breakthrough, the turning point, has never been waiting for you. It has been waiting on you, waiting for you to understand how your mind actually works, waiting for you to stop living on the surface and finally tap into the forces shaping you from within. And that is exactly why Think and Grow Rich remains one of the most influential books ever written. Not because it tells us how to make money, but because it reveals something far more powerful, that human achievement follows laws. Thought laws, belief laws, emotional laws, and once you understand them, your life cannot stay the same. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tomorrow, Better Version. Today, we begin a journey into one of the most important ideas Napoleon Hill ever discovered, a discovery he spent 25 years researching, interviewing more than 500 of the most successful men of his era, from Thomas Edison to Henry Ford to Andrew Carnegie. Hill believed that success was not an accident, it was not luck, it was not talent, it was not background. Success, in his findings, was a science of the mind, built on principles that anyone could use if they understood them. Before we begin exploring the full philosophy, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to create more meaningful content that helps you grow into the strongest version of yourself. If you enjoy learning, thinking deeply, and improving your life step by step, this channel was made for you, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's open the first door of the book, the reason why this philosophy needed to be written. At the time Hill was researching, the world was full of people who worked hard but never escaped poverty, brilliant minds who never found recognition, talented workers who remained unseen. Meanwhile, others with fewer advantages, sometimes even less knowledge, rose to extraordinary heights. So what was the difference? Hill believed the difference was not in the external world, but in the internal one. He believed that thoughts, when mixed with emotion and directed with purpose, take on a life of their own, shaping habits, plans, actions, and ultimately outcomes. He starts with a bold claim. Everything begins as a thought. Every business, every invention, every fortune, every movement that has shaped history began first as an idea inside someone's mind. Thoughts are not passive. They are seeds. And when a thought becomes a burning desire, something emotional, something deeply felt, it becomes the blueprint for your future. Hill calls this the starting point of all achievement. And here's where the world becomes divided into two types of people: those who let thoughts drift and those who choose their thoughts. Those who allow circumstances to shape beliefs and those who let beliefs shape circumstances. Those who think accidentally and those who think deliberately. Wealth does not come to those who wish, it comes to those who decide. Success does not happen to those who dream vaguely. It comes to those who turn desire into a plan, into faith, into action, into persistence. Hill does not romanticize success. He does not say it is easy, but he says something far more valuable. Success is possible for anyone who understands how their mind works and uses it on purpose. That is the true promise of Think and Grow Rich. Not money, but mastery. Mastery over yourself, over your thoughts, over your emotions, over your internal world, the only world you truly have control over. This book summary will help you understand the foundation Napoleon Hill built, a structured system for transforming thoughts into results, dreams into plans, and desire into achievement. Before we continue deeper, I'd love to ask you one simple question, a question that reveals something important about your mindset. Take a moment to feel your answer and then comment below. Which statement do you believe describes success more accurately? A. Success mostly depends on external opportunities. B. Success begins in the mind before it appears in real life. Comment A or B below. Your answer says more about your current belief system than you may realize. When Napoleon Hill began interviewing the most successful individuals of his era, he was searching for one pattern, one force, that separated ordinary ambition from extraordinary achievement. What he found became the foundation of his entire philosophy. Every great success is built on a triangle of inner forces: desire, faith, and autosuggestion, working together like gears in a machine. Each one influences the subconscious mind differently, but when combined, they form a blueprint powerful enough to transform thoughts into reality. Hill begins with desire not because it is pleasant or inspiring, but because he believed it is the only force strong enough to override fear, doubt, and inertia. A wish is weak, a preference is fragile, but a desire that becomes a burning obsession has the power to reorganize a person's behavior, attention, decisions, and willpower. Hill uses the story of Edwin C. Barnes to show this truth. Barnes did not vaguely want to work with Thomas Edison. He decided he would become Edison's business partner. There was no plan yet, no skills, no connections, not even a proper introduction. Only desire, definite, uncompromising, unshakable. That desire guided every action Barnes took afterward, eventually opening the very door he had imagined. Hill believed desire is not just motivation, it is the origin of intention, the spark that awakens the subconscious mind and directs it toward a goal. But desire alone is not enough. Millions desire success, yet only a few achieve it. The missing element is faith, not in a religious sense, but faith as Hill defines it, an emotionalized belief in the attainment of your desire. It is the mental state that convinces the subconscious mind that the goal is already on its way. Hill observed that the subconscious does not respond to logic, it responds to emotion. So when desire is infused with belief, when a person feels their success before they see it, the subconscious begins constructing plans, opportunities, and impulses that align with that belief. This connection between desire and faith leads directly to the third corner of the triangle: autosuggestion. Hill describes autosuggestion as the bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious. It is the process of feeding the subconscious repeated, emotionally charged instructions, statements, affirmations, mental images, or thoughts that eventually become accepted as truth. The subconscious then acts on these accepted ideas, influencing behavior, perception, and decision-making in ways that move a person toward their goal. Hill believed most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they allow the subconscious to be shaped by accidental thoughts, fear, self-doubt, negative memories, and the influence of others. Autosuggestion is the antidote. By deliberately choosing what to repeat and emotionalizing those thoughts, individuals can reprogram their subconscious toward confidence, clarity, courage, and action. This is why Hill emphasizes reading your written goal statement twice a day, with feeling, with intensity, with imagination. It is not the words that matter, but the emotional vibration behind them. To illustrate this, Hill shares stories from business, science, and everyday life. Some are dramatic, such as people overcoming physical disabilities through persistent belief in healing. Others are subtle, showing how individuals transform their self-image and behavior simply by repeating affirmations about their abilities. The theme is consistent. Repeated thought, backed by emotion, becomes a dominant force in the subconscious mind. And once a thought becomes dominant, it attracts ideas, opportunities, and resources that move a person toward fulfilling it. What makes this triangle so powerful is how the elements feed one another. Desire fuels repetition. Repetition fuels belief. Belief fuels persistence. Persistence reinforces desire. The cycle continues until the subconscious becomes fully convinced, and once convinced, it cannot help but influence the outer world through actions and decisions. Hill often said that the subconscious works like fertile soil. Whatever seed you plant, fear or faith, doubt or desire, it will grow. Autosuggestion is simply choosing the seeds deliberately. Hill does not claim this process is easy. He acknowledges that many people struggle in the beginning because their conscious mind is filled with fears and contradictions. When someone says, "I am wealthy," but internally feels scarcity, the subconscious receives mixed signals. That is why Hill advises starting with believable steps. Instead of saying, I am rich, one might say. Every day I am becoming more capable, more confident, and more prepared for wealth. The key is consistency and emotional engagement. The subconscious mind rejects statements that feel false, but welcomes statements that feel possible. Another critical insight Hill offers is that autosuggestion is always happening, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every complaint, every negative thought, every fear repeated becomes its own affirmation. Hill warns that people unknowingly program themselves into failure by speaking about limitations, expecting misfortune, or allowing others to influence their beliefs. He encourages readers to guard their thoughts as carefully as they guard their money, because thoughts shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. To make the inner triangle practical, Hill offers a structured routine. Write down your exact desire, read it aloud morning and night, visualize it with emotion, and speak it as if it were already moving toward you. Over time, this practice creates a deep inner conviction. Hill argues that conviction is not something we wait for, it is something we create. And once faith is created, it becomes a magnetic force that draws circumstances into alignment. What makes this triangle timeless is that modern psychology supports Hill's claims. Neuroscience shows that repeated thoughts strengthen neural pathways. Emotionalized thoughts activate deeper regions of the brain tied to motivation and decision-making. Visualization triggers the same brain regions used in real action, and belief, especially self-belief, predicts performance across nearly every measurable domain. Hill discovered these principles long before science could explain them, yet his insights perfectly align with what we know today. By understanding desire, faith, and autosuggestion, we understand the foundation of self-transformation. Hill believed that if a person masters these three forces, every other principle in the book becomes easier. Without them, no plan can survive, no goal can endure, and no success can be sustained. The inner triangle is not just a formula, it is a mental discipline, a daily practice of shaping your inner world so that your outer world begins to reflect it. When these three forces work together, a person becomes unstoppable, not because life becomes easier, but because the mind becomes stronger, clearer, and more aligned with the direction it wants to go. And once a mind becomes aligned, the subconscious does the rest. When Napoleon Hill studied the most successful people of his time, he discovered something surprising. Intelligence alone did not guarantee success. Many brilliant individuals lived ordinary lives, while others with less formal education shaped entire industries. What separated these two groups was not raw intellect, but the way they used their minds. Hill identified 4 essential tools: specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, and the MASTERMIND alliance. These tools turn desire into strategy, faith into structure, and ideas into results. Hill begins with a simple but powerful truth. Knowledge by itself has no value. Only applied knowledge produces results. General knowledge, facts, theories, information may make someone interesting, but it rarely makes them successful. Specialized knowledge, however, directed toward a definite purpose and organized into actionable plans, becomes a force. Hill observed that highly successful individuals were rarely experts in everything. Instead, they became exceptionally good at something specific and surrounded themselves with people who complemented their weaknesses. Henry Ford is Hill's most famous example. Ford did not know every technical detail about the automobiles he built. What he understood was organization, how to gather experts, delegate, and coordinate talent. Specialized knowledge, Hill says, does not need to be possessed personally. It only needs to be acquired and organized. This idea naturally leads to imagination, which Hill calls the workshop of the mind. Whereas knowledge gives you tools, imagination gives you the blueprint. Everything that exists today, every business, every invention, every story, every movement, began as an idea formed in someone's imagination. Hill distinguishes between synthetic imagination, which rearranges existing ideas, and creative imagination, which taps into deeper intuitive sources. Both forms are essential. Synthetic imagination allows you to combine known principles into something useful. Creative imagination invites new insights, hunches, and inspirations from what Hill calls infinite intelligence. Regardless of which type is at play, imagination is the place where desire becomes a picture, and pictures eventually become goals. Yet imagination alone is fragile. Ideas without structure remain dreams. This is why Hill emphasizes organized planning as the next tool. Once you know what you want and can visualize its attainment, you must convert the vision into definite steps. Plans do not need to be perfect. In fact, Hill repeatedly reminds readers that most plans fail at first and must be replaced with new ones. Temporary defeat does not mean the goal is wrong. It simply means the plan needs adjustment. The people who succeed are those who treat planning as a living process, revising, refining, adapting until the plan fits the goal. Organized planning also requires humility. Hill notes that successful individuals do not attempt everything alone. They recognize the limits of their own abilities and seek support where needed. This leads to his most profound contribution, the mastermind principle. The mastermind is not simply a group of people working together. It is a harmonious alliance of minds that creates a third invisible force, what Hill describes as a collective mind, more powerful than any individual. When two or more people coordinate their knowledge, skills, and energy in pursuit of a definite purpose, something extraordinary happens. Ideas multiply, creativity expands, confidence grows, and solutions appear that would never have emerged alone. The mastermind principle explains why great achievements throughout history, scientific breakthroughs, business empires, social movements, are almost never the work of one person. They are the result of collaboration, unified purpose, and mutual encouragement. Hill uses many examples to illustrate this. Think of Thomas Edison working alongside numerous researchers in his laboratory. Think of industrial leaders who surrounded themselves with engineers, financiers, operations experts, and creatives. Their genius was not limited to pure talent. It was amplified by association. Hill believed the mastermind was the single most important tool for creating large-scale success because it multiplies human potential. These four tools, knowledge, imagination, planning, and mastermind, form a sequence. Specialized knowledge provides material, imagination shapes it, planning organizes it, mastermind power accelerates it. Without knowledge, imagination has nothing to work with. Without imagination, planning lacks direction. Without planning, knowledge remains unused. Without a mastermind alliance, even the best plans lack momentum. Hill's brilliance lies in showing how all four tools connect and reinforce each other, creating a system for transforming abstract ideas into measurable results. However, Hill is careful to warn readers about a common trap, believing that these tools work automatically. They do not. Knowledge must be sought. Imagination must be practiced. Plans must be tested. A mastermind must be built consciously, not casually. Successful individuals do not drift into success. They engineer it. They create routines that stimulate imagination, environments that encourage planning, and relationships that amplify growth. Hill emphasizes that building a mastermind requires selectivity. Only those who share similar values, ambition, and energy should be included. Disharmony destroys progress. Harmony multiplies it. Another key insight Hill offers is the importance of humility. No matter how skilled or intelligent someone is, they cannot know everything alone. The willingness to collaborate is not a weakness, it is a strength. Many people fail, Hill says, because they rely solely on themselves and refuse help. But those who understand the power of collective intelligence unlock opportunities far beyond their personal capacity. Hill also highlights the role of imagination in solving problems. He notes that when people encounter obstacles, their tendency is to quit or complain. But successful thinkers use imagination to search for alternatives. Every setback, Hill insists, contains the seed of an equivalent advantage. But to find it, one must look with creativity rather than discouragement. Many famous success stories Hill documents began as failures that forced individuals to think differently. Their imagination transformed obstacles into opportunities. Finally, Hill elevates planning from a technical skill to a mindset. Planning is not something one does once. It is an ongoing process, one that evolves with experience, feedback, and new information. The greatest plans are never perfect at the beginning. They become perfect through execution, adjustment, and persistence. Hill teaches that a person who learns to plan well learns to live well, because planning requires clarity, discipline, and the ability to anticipate challenges. What makes these tools so timeless is their universality. Whether someone wants financial success, artistic achievement, personal growth, or a meaningful life, The tools of the mind remain the same. Knowledge provides depth, imagination provides direction, planning provides movement. Mastermind provides power. They are the architecture of progress, the machinery of achievement, and the foundation upon which every great endeavor is built. Through these tools, Hill challenges us not just dream, but to design, not just to desire, but to build, not just to believe, but to collaborate, and ultimately to shape a life that reflects the full capacity of the mind rather than the limitations of circumstance. Napoleon Hill believed that what separates those who merely wish from those who truly achieve is not intelligence, talent, or upbringing, but emotional power. Emotion is the fuel that drives the machinery of the mind. Without it, desire fades, imagination weakens, and plans collapse. In this part of the philosophy, Hill explores three emotional forces that determine success more than any strategy: persistence, sex energy, and fear. These forces may seem unrelated, yet they each shape the direction of human behavior, amplifying or destroying our potential, depending on how we use them. Hill describes persistence as the sustained effort required to convert desire into reality. Most people misunderstand persistence. They think it means working hard for a long time. But Hill says persistence is a state of mind, an emotional habit rooted in belief. People fail not because they lack ability, but because their desire is weak. When the desire is strong enough, persistence becomes automatic. When the desire is faint, the smallest obstacle becomes a reason to quit. Hill observed that nearly every major success he studied was preceded by repeated failures. The difference between those who gave up and those who triumphed was simple. The winners saw failure as a temporary detour, not a final verdict. This emotional quality can be cultivated. Hill reminds us that persistence grows through small, repeated actions, showing up even when motivation is low, adjusting plans instead of abandoning them, and holding on to an inner vision when external reality looks discouraging. He illustrates this with countless real stories, but his point is always the same. Persistence is not a heroic burst of effort. It is quiet emotional resilience, and it is available to anyone willing to build it deliberately. From persistence, Hill shifts to one of his most controversial yet profound principles: sex transmutation. He argues that sexual energy is the most powerful human emotion. It fuels passion, creativity, ambition, enthusiasm, and vitality. Throughout history, many influential creators, leaders, and innovators were highly energetic individuals, and their greatest achievements often coincided with periods when they redirected sexual energy into mental and creative work. Hill is not speaking about physical expression of sex, but the emotional force behind it, the drive, intensity, and magnetism it creates. When uncontrolled, this energy leads to distractions or impulsive behavior. When directed through discipline, it becomes the engine of genius. Hill's insight is that sexual energy is not something to suppress, but to channel upward toward goals, imagination, art, business, or leadership. It increases confidence. It sharpens the mind. It raises ambition. It amplifies persistence. He suggests that every great achievement is underpinned by some form of emotional transfer, where raw desire becomes a higher form of creative power. Yet if sex energy and persistence are forces that propel us forward, fear is the force that holds us back. And Hill treats fear as the most dangerous enemy of success. It works quietly, invisibly, shaping decisions long before we notice it. Hill identifies 6 basic fears that nearly every human battles: fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. These fears restrict imagination, weaken desire, block persistence, and paralyze action. The tragedy, Hill notes, is that most fears are illusions, mental constructs created by past conditioning or negative influences. Fear of poverty causes people to settle for less, avoid risks, and sabotage their own ambitions. Fear of criticism keeps dreams unspoken and plans unattempted. Fear of ill health invites anxiety that can worsen physical well-being. Fear of losing love creates dependency and emotional imbalance. Fear of old age makes people believe opportunities are gone. Fear of death steals peace and joy from the present moment. These fears operate like invisible chains, unseen but painfully restraining. Hill insists the only way to neutralize fear is through understanding and conscious control of the mind. Fear cannot coexist with faith, persistence, or desire. Once the mind is dominated by purpose and belief, fear begins to dissolve. Hill does not suggest fear goes away entirely. Rather, it loses its power to make decisions. Successful people feel fear like everyone else, but they refuse to let fear become their master. They replace fear with deliberate focus, positive emotion, and continuous action. When we look at these three forces together, persistence, sex energy, and fear, we begin to see Hill's deeper insight. The mind is shaped not by logic alone, but by emotion. Emotion determines how people interpret challenges, how they use their energy, and how they respond to uncertainty. Someone may know what they want and how to get it, but without emotional strength, even the best plan collapses. Meanwhile, a person with powerful emotional fuel, passion, desire, resilience, can succeed even with imperfect plans. Hill explains that mastering these forces is not a one-time task. It is an ongoing relationship with oneself. We must continually feed our minds with purpose to strengthen persistence. We must continually channel our emotional energy into constructive paths to access creativity and drive. And we must continually confront fear with awareness, healing, and action. The more control we gain over emotional forces, the more predictable our success becomes. This is why Hill's philosophy remains timeless. It does not depend on circumstances, talent, or education. It depends on inner mastery. Persistence can be built. Sexual energy can be redirected. Fear can be overcome. These emotional forces, properly managed, become lifelong allies, not only in achieving wealth, but in creating a meaningful, energized, emotionally balanced life. In Hill's view, emotional mastery is the foundation of personal transformation. It is what turns ordinary individuals into leaders, creators, and visionaries. And it is what gives every reader the power to take control of their destiny, regardless of where they begin. Napoleon Hill saves his most mysterious and profound ideas for the final stretch of his philosophy. After exploring desire, faith, imagination, persistence, and emotional energy, he turns our attention to a realm that is invisible yet undeniably influential: the subconscious mind, the sixth sense, and the mastery of one's inner world. To Hill, these forces represent the deepest layers of human potential, where thoughts transform into reality, where ideas arrive without warning, and where intuition becomes a reliable guide. Though intangible, these forces shape everything tangible in life. Hill describes the subconscious mind as a fertile field where every thought, especially those charged with emotion, is planted as a seed. Whether we are aware of it or not, our subconscious works day and night, absorbing impressions, storing memories, interpreting experiences, and influencing decisions. It does not judge or filter. It accepts whatever the conscious mind repeatedly feeds it. Over time, these repeated thoughts become beliefs, and these beliefs shape action. This is why people often repeat the same patterns, feel drawn towards certain opportunities, or sabotage themselves without understanding why. The subconscious is always at work, translating thought into behavior and behavior into outcomes. But Hill emphasizes that this hidden mechanism is not a passive system. It is a powerful channel through which humans communicate with what he calls infinite intelligence. This is not a religious idea. It is Hill's way of describing the creative force behind inspiration, opportunity, and intuition. When the subconscious mind receives an emotionalized desire, it reaches outward into this universal realm and returns with ideas, insights, and conditions that move the individual closer to their goal. Hill believed that this is why the greatest inventions, business breakthroughs, artistic works, and scientific discoveries often emerge unexpectedly, during sleep, during relaxation, during moments when the conscious mind is quiet. The subconscious, operating freely, retrieves answers from a deeper dimension of intelligence. This leads naturally into Hill's final and most elusive concept, the sixth sense. Hill does not present it as a mystical gift, but as the highest stage of mental development. The sixth sense, as he describes it, is a blend of intuition, inspiration, and sudden understanding that appears when the mind has been trained, disciplined, and refined through the earlier principles. It is the receiving station of the mind where ideas arrive fully formed, often without logical explanation. Many great thinkers throughout history experienced moments of clarity that seemed to come from nowhere. Hill argues that these are not coincidences. They are the result of a finely tuned subconscious mind connecting with infinite intelligence. However, Hill is careful to explain that the sixth sense cannot be forced or accessed at will. It emerges naturally as a culmination of disciplined thinking, emotional control, and consistent application of the earlier steps. When a person has developed desire, strengthened faith, used autosuggestion, applied specialized knowledge, leveraged imagination, persisted through difficulty, and controlled their emotional forces, the sixth sense begins to function. Ideas appear more quickly. Decisions feel easier. Intuition becomes precise. Life seems to flow with less resistance. Hill suggests that this state is one of harmony between the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the invisible intelligence that fuels human creativity. But at the core of this final dimension lies the principle of self-mastery. Hill makes it clear that the ability to control one's mind is the greatest power any human can possess. Without self-mastery, every other principle collapses. A mind ruled by fear cannot activate the subconscious productively. A mind ruled by doubt cannot build faith or receive inspiration. A mind ruled by impulsive emotion cannot apply persistence or channel sexual energy into creative power. Self-mastery is not about strict discipline or suppression. It is about becoming the conscious director of one's thoughts, choosing deliberately which seeds to plant in the subconscious, and refusing to let negativity take root. This form of mastery requires awareness. Hill invites readers to observe how often negative thoughts enter the mind, how easily fear influences decisions, how quickly doubt undermines desire. He explains that the mind must be trained like a muscle, strengthened through repeated effort, shaped by consistent practice. Just as physical training transforms the body, mental training transforms consciousness. Through repetition, visualization, positive autosuggestion, and emotional discipline, individuals can gradually reshape their inner world until it begins to match the life they desire. Hill's final message is a powerful one. The mind is both the starting point and the finishing point of all achievement. Wealth, success, happiness, creativity, love, all of these begin as thoughts shaped by the subconscious and amplified by emotional energy. The sixth sense then provides guidance, intuition, and unexpected openings, but none of it can be activated without self-mastery. Hill believed that the greatest tragedy of human life is not lack of opportunity or intelligence, but lack of control over one's own thoughts. In closing, Hill invites every reader to recognize the remarkable power they already possess. The subconscious mind is always listening. The sixth sense is always available. Infinite intelligence is always flowing. The only question is whether we will learn to direct these forces consciously. When we do, the invisible dimension becomes the most reliable partner in our pursuit of success, guiding us toward a future shaped not by chance, but by choice. When Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he wasn't handing the world a promise of instant wealth, nor was he trying to impress readers with grand philosophies. What he offered was far more powerful, a mental blueprint that quietly insists your life can change the moment your mind changes. And as we have journeyed through the ideas of desire, faith, imagination, planning, persistence, emotional energy, the subconscious mind, and the mysterious sixth sense, the true brilliance of this book becomes undeniable. Hill's message has endured for nearly a century because it speaks to something deeply human, the longing to rise above circumstance and create a future shaped by intention rather than chance. What this book ultimately teaches is that success is not an exclusive privilege reserved for the lucky or the talented. It is a predictable process, a system anyone could follow if they're willing to take full responsibility for their inner world. Thoughts are not trivial. They carry the blueprint of every path you'll walk. Emotions are not obstacles. They are fuel waiting to be directed. Imagination isn't childish dreaming. It is the workshop where every transformation is first born. Again and again, Hill reminds us that nothing in the outer world begins outside of us. Everything, opportunities, relationships, creativity, wealth, starts with a mental shift, a decision, a belief, a feeling. And perhaps the most life-changing truth of all is this: your inner conversation shapes your destiny. The words you repeatedly whisper to yourself, the images you rehearse before sleep, the feelings you allow to linger, these are the silent commands your subconscious mind will turn into reality. Once you understand this, you can no longer live as a passive observer of your own life. You become the author instead of the audience. If there is one unifying thread running through Hill's entire philosophy, it is responsibility, not the heavy kind, but the empowering kind. The responsibility to choose your thoughts deliberately instead of letting them drift. The responsibility to desire boldly, imagine vividly, persist courageously, and master yourself deeply. For when the mind becomes disciplined, life begins to bend. When the mind becomes focused, life begins to align. And when the mind becomes fearless, life begins to expand in ways that once felt impossible. The core lesson is simple yet profound. Your mind is a creative force, neutral, obedient, and unimaginably powerful. If you don't guide it consciously, it will create unconsciously, and you may end up living a life you never meant to build. The way to begin is not overwhelming. Choose one desire that genuinely matters to you. Just one. Write it clearly, as though you were placing an order with your future. Repeat it each night before sleep, not mechanically, but with feeling. Spend a few minutes imagining how life would look and feel if it were already true. Then, the next day, take a small action that aligns with that picture. Small steps compound. Clear thoughts attract. Aligned actions transform. Before we close, I'd love to hear from you sincerely. What is one belief about yourself that you are ready to change after listening to this analysis? Please share it in the comments. Your insight may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this video brought value to your life, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to continue creating content that helps you grow into your best and most powerful self.